80% of offenses committed during election are committed by politicians. What is the crime of the voter? The security agent, INEC. Who manipulates them? Who induces them? Who sends violence? Who intimidates people? Who causes voter suppression? Who causes treating, the giving of food and drinks in polling? Who does vote buying? And who induces all of that? The politicians. Nigerians are demanding for them to make a law that can clean a process in which they are the biggest offenders. Why is somebody going to you, voter, to pay you 20,000
so that you vote for him or vote for his
If your
choice?
vote does not count, why will he give you 20,000? Do you see the Nigerian politicians as Mother Teresa? No, I'm asking you.
No, of course
so
not.
Nigerian politician will carry
No, they're not that kind.
and give you
out of goodness of their heart.
Out of his goodness of his heart, because he thinks so. Vote buying was a response to the reform that Jega and Mahmoud brought to INEC. But is there a consensus about how we want our country to be? Can we run a country where people are free, spiritually free, which means I know your role, I respect you for that role, but you cannot dominate me? When you see people talk about government in Nigeria, the people, Femi, they should give you appointment with all the work that you have done. You should be given an appointment. The first thing that you think is that they like you, isn't it? That they feel that they recognize the contributions they are making. But that's not it. Immediately you get that appointment, the first question is, so if you are Yoruba, they say, Femi Kilo Ambe.
That's what's in it for us.
They are the ones who define when they have been maligned. They sit back and say, I've been maligned. I'm maligned. They take you to court. Citizens are gagged by laws, making what you have as democracy even more dangerous than military rule. Now, the court can send you to prison for having an alternative view. Somebody's a thief, and you called him a thief, and he knows that he's a thief. And he goes to court and say you called him a thief. And then he sends you to prison because you called a thief a thief. What we have done unwittingly is to always allow lazy politicians, very indolent politicians, to set an agenda for us and give us talking points. We give comfort to people who we shouldn't be listening to and vilify institutions that set up a process for themselves. They will not pass Electoral Offenses Bill. I challenge them to do so if what I'm saying is not correct. Those sunshine laws can never see the light of the day. It will not.
This is Volume with FemiDlive. I'm glad you joined in. Our guest today has been in democracy walk in many sides of the divide. First of all, he's been on the side of advocacy and also providing counsel to quite a number of our electoral leaders as we have them across the country. But it becomes of interest when we talk about elections. And yes, the month of June is special to Nigeria. Oftentimes, we talk about our democratic journey and what we have achieved and what we have resonated with so far. And my guest today is Ezenwa Nwagu. He's the Executive Director, Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa. We simply call them PAACA. And I'm glad you joined in, sir. Welcome, sir.
Good to be here, FemiD.
All right. So it's almost historic. I get the vibe and the feeling that people talk about the journey we've had from 1993 till now, 2025, as a measure of achievements in various dimensions. But some would also say, well, we've not really accelerated in terms of our democracy so far, considering what other countries may have done. What do you make of this? Have we made progress in some parts, or some parts are just waiting, to be consumed or done?
Okay, so the democratic journey, once you have that construction, the first thing people like to talk about is dividend of democracy. What we now refer to as good governance. But we didn't fight the military for good governance. We didn't use our youth to ensure that we have this civil rule simply to have bridges built, roads constructed, hospitals equipped. That's not as important as those things are.
Yes.
What we fought for was the intrinsic values of freedom, civil liberties. Why do I say so? The place where this beautiful enterprise is situated was built by the military. The whole of what you call Gwarimpa, Third Mainland Bridge, Abuja. It was virtually done by. So if we only contemplate the democracy to mean these things, then the military have in truth have more enduring legacy in terms of what you can touch. The only difference is that whereas you couldn't question the military, you can ask questions. You can't ask questions. And I give the example of if you were asked to bring in chairs, 1,000 chairs here, and under the military, you can't even count. You'll be a disgruntled element to try to count, to even say, let us count whether it is up to 1,000. But the contemplation of democracy is that you not only count, you ask about the quality of the chairs, and you ask about who supplied it. Are there conflict of interest issues? So, in the 26 years since 1999, what has continued to resurface is the same things the military did, probably more expertly than even civilians. Oh, we've paid salaries. Oh, we've built roads. Oh, we've stabilized the naira. Those. But you then ask the question: did they win themselves of what they inherited from the military? Can we ask questions? Have they not carried on more like benevolent dictators?
Are you saying that it's possible what we have in 26 years is not even the full democracy, it's a pseudo democracy, a little bit of dictatorship, a little bit of who knows what from anywhere in the world in terms of how we've been led?
I talk about, the example that I just gave is about process, is about the capacity of citizens to question. Okay? Yes, there is freedom, but the leaders in their complexion, in their character, in the nature of the ruling elite that you have continued to carry themselves on more like czars, people who cannot be questioned. In the states, in the subnationals, for instance, the governors have no tolerance for anything called interrogation. So they stultify structures like the State Houses of Assembly. Who are you in the State House of Assembly to question the governor? Who are you in the state judiciary to rule against the state? The media in those states, the labor centers are all hamstrung by the overpowering influence.
Which makes me really want to bring up the example. I mean, the compelling example will have to be the impasse that was experienced in Lagos State House of Assembly recently. And of course, the Rivers example as well, where it looked at the only solution, or should I say the intervention, may not even be the solution, but intervention had to come from the president, whether through official channels or informal channels, to say, stop that, stop what you're doing at that level. For example, with the Lagos State impasse, where they had who knows how many number of speakers within a few weeks, I'm the right owner and the likes of that.
If that was voluntary, if they were doing that by themselves, and there are no extraneous push or pull, then it is democratic. That you even have that intervention is also part of the challenge. That there is a big man who wields the big stick, who whips everybody to line. That's not the contemplation of. There are no contemplation of for a personality cult that we all go to worship and kowtow to. No. So everywhere today, in the last 1 week, conversations have been about chest thumping, so I'm listening every day across different platforms to all you hear is that we have built so and so number of kilometers of road, we have done this, and I'm asking myself, the 26 years is not history for me, it is current affairs. I live here. History is the past. Geography is what your eye can see. Current affairs is the one that is happening. So 26 years have happened right under my eyes. I've seen roads constructed. I've seen bridges built by the military. I think what we need to do is to see how we begin to erect strong law and order regime of process where you do not need, where institutions are functioning, where the legislature is a legislature doing the work of lawmaking, oversight, and representation in a way that advances democracy, not in a way that consolidates power.
Which is one of the reasons why I want to ask you about consolidated power that sometimes forms what you call personality cults, like you mentioned, the phrase. The last 10 years has been interesting. Maybe before the late President Yaradua did pass on, we saw a little bit more about, let's do the calculations of politics of who would support him. And then there was Goodluck Jonathan, who some people say, he didn't have a strong personality to cover Nigeria. That is opinionated anyway. But then we saw Muhammadu Buhari almost like having a personality cult. Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, same vibe. Which then compels a question about, do you think Nigerians are responding to these personalities? And when these personalities don't do what they expect them to do, Nigerians start to say, we voted because you were like this, but now, alas, you are not.
No, it's also a misunderstanding of what democracy should be. We've gone through the civilianization of our mind is also important as a people, because we like strong people in the sense that because we've been used to command, we've been used to immediate effect, we've been used to now, and so once somebody, democracy under the persona you talked about, the Buhari persona of 1983, 83, 84, 85, was a commandist Buhari. The one of 2015 to 2019 will be one that, whether he likes it or not, cannot, even if he has to manipulate, he will have to manipulate if he wants to use the judiciary, use those institutions. He will have to beg, he will have to lobby. He can't give a nationwide instruction. The governors are controlling federating units and they are not your schoolboy. So 48% of the resources of the country goes to the states. 52% is held by the federal. That 48% is not accounted for in any serious way. The 52% is what all of us pay our attention to. When the budget is passed, this would happen. When the budget is passed, the 52% is for the whole federation. The 48% goes to the states. So the state governors are czars in their states. They are emperors. They are not accountable to anybody in the true sense of accountability. Under the military, he will sack you. No matter what it is, President Buhari cannot sack. Even what you saw in Rivers had to take the concurrence of the National Assembly to get Rivers to have a administrator. Whether it's by voice votes or by whatever, it's that they concord, they agree. Because I've not read any press conference where anybody said, at least in the House of Representatives, where people came out and said, no, I disagreed. Maybe just one or two, but that's neither here nor there. There was concurrence by the National Assembly. So that's the difference. That's the difference. So persona, the building of personality cult is an inheritance from the military. It is something we inherited. And the truth of the matter is that we've not been able to win ourselves of, yes, the military had security votes. They packed money in the government houses while they were there. The place became banks. The people who took over from them still maintained security votes, unaccounted resources of the people that you can use anyhow you like without accounting to anybody.
Should that be the case? Because security vote seems to be very mysterious. And for those who do not know, let me make it very simple. It's a situation where the governor, whoever gets the security vote, doesn't show up with any.
The president has security vote.
Doesn't show
the minister has security vote.
Yes.
The governor has security vote. Speaker has security vote. Deputy speaker has security vote.
What's that for when it comes to the
That's what
speaker?
I'm telling you. That was what they got from the military. They got that, the ambushing of structures, the ambushing of process is what military rule is about. It is to ambush and subvert process. So you don't go through any audit trail. The disgruntled element who is the auditor general, bring this money here, bagger. That's what you hear. And you bring it. If you don't bring it, they kick you out. So today, the folks who have taken over are still maintaining that absence of process-driven things. So they can have money in government house. A governor can give you money, can do whatever he likes without accounting for it. Now, what is important is that the weakening of the structures of accountability is the default in this transition that we're having. The 26 years transition, its biggest weakness is the absence of accountability and questioning. Not the things that the chest thumping that is going on is okay, it's fine, it's part of, we've built roads, we've done this, that's okay. But you must begin to look much more. How much of a law and order system are we running? What is the difference between us and those other countries that you are trying to draw attention to? It's simply law and order, nothing more.
Talking about law and order, and from what you said, it makes me feel like, there's a lot of pop culture that is thrown around democracy. If you show them the roads, you show them where the water is coming from, and the likes of that, people will feel, well, you're providing a measured kind of result based on what you said you would do and how you're doing it. Do you think Nigerians, because Nigeria has one of the largest amounts of laws in the world, we often like to put up laws around challenges that we face, but not necessarily changing the subject or changing the people involved in some of this. What do you make of that? Because we've seen many situations when they say, don't go left. The next thing, somebody makes it and says, I vote or I put forward a bill around this. What do you make forward of every time we face a challenge and somebody says, let's make a law about it, even if it's ridiculous?
Yes, because sometimes we are not thinking. Because we have turned this thing to a circus show, the leaders are not reflecting deeply. They are cashing on the weak imagination of the people, to bandy unnecessary things. The first thing is, why do you think law solves every problem? When I say law and order regime, I'm talking more about strong institutions that adjudicate, that administer those laws. So what do I mean by that? If you are in a pub in Maryland in the US, you are in a pub, you're drinking, you must have, if you are three, you must have one of you who is not drinking. so that because once you get out of that pub, it is most likely that somebody is going to wave you down and run an alcohol check on you, and there is not going to be anything like sorry. I'm very sorry, but if you exceed the required level of alcohol, you are given a ticket and you pay. If you don't pay, you go to jail. But you run a system here where, in fact, if you are coming out from a club in Nigeria and you have alcohol, reeking of alcohol, and you meet those who enforce the law, they will even ask you if you still have any in your car for themselves. They are not interested in the fact that you probably will become a disaster as you move forward. They will be asking you if what you drank, whether you still have
remaining,
is still remaining,
or you have money for them to
that's
buy.
the simple example of the absence of law and order regime. You go to the airports here, you see a big man, he sits into the lounge, waits for people on the queue, he runs over them, just walks, and then he just goes in and he feels cool. And then he gets to Heathrow, he doesn't do that because he knows he cannot do that. He cannot do that. It's not that he does not want to do it. Inside him, he wants to do it, but the law and order regime that exists will prevent him from doing so. So as we pay a lot of attention on what we have referred to as dividends of democracy, good governance, my call for these 26 years is to deepen those intrinsic values that can make us humans, make us people, make us a nation of law and order, where processes are obeyed, not just because it is comfortable, but because when you see people talk about government in Nigeria, the people, oh, Femi, they should give you appointment with all the work that you have done. You should be given an appointment. The first thing that you think is that they like you, isn't it? That they feel that they recognize the contributions they are making. But that's not it. Immediately you get that appointment, the first question is, so if you are Yoruba, they say, Femi Kilo Wambe.
That's what's in it for us.
This place that you are now, what is, if you are Igbo now, if you are Hausa, I'm back on. So you are just about, we have programmed in a way that is not, our thought is not civilianized. It is not civil. So the leaders are constructing roads. They are constructing things. They are trying to fight insurgency. They are doing all they can, but they are not producing human beings that can live in a nation where law and order regime.
I would like to go back to what you said about Nigerians having weak imagination. And, you also mentioned the fact that even if Nigeria was to be livable, and this is me insinuating, even if Nigeria was livable with all the attributes of everything one can think about democracy and its dividends, that some Nigerians don't even know how to live in a well-constructed society such as that, where things are going right. When we say weak imaginations, what, who, how can Nigerians be helped? I think about somebody who was born in Gen Z. I know we have Gen Alpha now, but Gen Zs who had never really seen a non-chaotic system running in Nigeria. And suddenly we're expecting them to think about how they would approach voting without the element of, I'm doing this for all the other reasons that one could think about. Weak imagination, how compelling has this really deterred how Nigerians think of themselves and what they think of what to expect?
When we talk about this Gen Z does not only exist in urban cities.
Oh, yes.
So Gen Zs are not on Twitter. The Gen Zs are not the only ones on Twitter. There are Gen Zs that live the reality of Nigeria, and they live in Kaura Namuda. They live in Ifezin, they live in Okitikupa. They are in those places. So every time you mystify this Gen Z thing, you give the impression that, And it's the same way we use the youth, young people.
Yes.
And then we use it as a tool of blackmail now and say, the young people are saying, which young people? Cherubim and Seraphim youth, Saruddin youth, Catholic youth, Anglican youth, which youth? Because they don't, Igbo youth, Yoruba youth, Hausa youth, Kanuri youth, they don't respond to the same stimuli. So it's always important that when we do this construction, because we are becoming very fashionable about all the Gen Zs are not, they are Nigerians. Okay. In fact, the challenge of the so-called Gen Z is that they are the most their sense of entitlement is from birth. And if nothing is done, they are even going to be worse than the generation that they try to. Why do I say that? You have a kid already, Femi, or if you don't have, by the time that child is born, is 2 years, you send the child to a school. From the morning, the mother, you yourself, you start preparing something that he will take to school. Drive the child to school. When he closes, you drive him back, and then you run that process almost till university. Where would they get a sense of order, the sense of the other person? Where will community feeling come? So I just took that as an aside. The weak imagination is that the people have been so decimated mentally that they worship. Leadership is about worship. Worship. So you worship somebody who ordinarily, if you didn't take money to vote him, if he didn't pay you to vote for him, you are supposed to be his master.
That is, the person is not as good as you intellectually or in all areas of life.
No, he may, if you vote for him genuinely, whether he's intellectually or not, if you are the one, because the one who is not intellectually sound has a right to stand for election. And the people can say, okay, he's not intellectually sound. Eze is intellectually sound, but we want this one that is not intellectually sound. The challenge is if they do that as a matter of choice, not as a matter of transactional compulsion. So you have to always differentiate. So, but because of the intrusion of transactional relationship between the led and the leader, which you call vote buying, okay, from the point of primary leadership, the primary level of leadership recruitment process, which is the party primaries, which is transactional, which has been dollarized, as we know, we lose our citizenship. We diminish our citizenship. Our ability to imagine, to hold government accountable is decimated by these interventions. Whether it is you collected it as a delegate or you collected it as a voter, you then find out that you cannot question. Because the pillar of democracy is questioning, is accountability. But what is the thing that anesthesizes your ability to question? It is that you have collected them. So what can we do to help the imagination? Is to say, and that's what leadership does. Is there a consensus about how we want our country to be? Can we run a country where people are free, spiritually free? Spiritually free, which means I know your role. I respect you for that role, but you cannot dominate me on account of the role that I have given to you. Why is there leadership? It is because it's trust. We decided that, okay, let us take all our power and hand over to Femi. And John Locke in Leviathan, he said, no, even this Femi is part of us. We can't. Let us create government so that government can moderate our greed. I don't know if you're getting my
point. I do.
So that's the big challenge. So government came in to moderate. So government needs to construct citizenship in a way that people are spiritually free. We must intensify the intrinsic values of democracy, which has to do much more with freedom to think, freedom to imagine the kind of country we want, freedom to say that we are not slaves in our own country. The equalization of citizenship is reflected in the PVC, what you call permanent voters card, or voting. The president cannot vote twice. No matter how powerful he is, he has only one vote. The speaker has one vote. The Senate president has one vote. Eze has one vote. Femi has one vote. Splendor has one vote. So if we all have one vote, what does that tell you? What does it tell you? It is our vote that all we put together and say, you now preside over us. And we put institutions that are supposed to hold you accountable. Once those institutions are weak and are unable to hold you accountable, then it's a benevolent dictatorship that you can have.
Let's talk about even accountability along the lines of local government as we have it now. So, I mean, we just talked about, how good it is to have local government autonomy, how their system is possibly going to start working, backed up all the laws that needs to be backed up along the lines of that. But lo and behold, it's been many months since all talks about local government autonomy, let's do elections for the local government chairman and the likes of that. But it's gone quiet. I don't even know where to begin on the issue of local government as we have it. From the elections, electing the chairman, to even having it run as a third tier of government. What do you make of the mystery around local governments in Nigeria?
It's not any mystery. We altered the constitution 2 times, in 2018 and 2022, to give what we call local government autonomy. The Supreme Court gave a judgment strengthening local government autonomy. So who is subverting it? Let's put the thing where it is. The governors cannot allow you to have local government autonomy.
They cannot?
They will not.
They do they have that as a power?
Right now, what has happened? You run election. Do you have election in the local governments?
No, not that I know of.
No, so there are no elections. What you have is coronation.
Coronation.
Yes, you have coronation in the local government.
You pick, someone is picked for.
Yes, and then, we are always talking about the election, but the place where people learn democracy is actually at that subnational level. And that is the place where both me and you are not even interested in what goes on there. All the things they call local government election that took place, the dominant political parties in those states took 99% of the votes and then allocated 1% as a ceremony. And then the person who wins in many states have signed undated resignation letters.
What does that mean?
You sign undated and hand over to your governor.
What conditions would frame that for that to happen?
So if you get this money, this is what you are returning it. If you don't,
will submit.
We'll put a date to it.
So in other words, if they don't do what the governors want, they are out already.
You were not elected in the first instance. You were coronated. You were coronated. What you are not going to eat, you cannot be using it to smell your nose now. You know that you just woke up and they say you are going to be the local government chairman. And they wrote your name. And then they fixed the date. And they did drama that the election has said, you know everything, you know. And then money is sent to you and you keep it. So local government autonomy must come with political autonomy. And the guys who hold the ace in that place, they are not the president's schoolboy. That's why even the president is negotiating with them on obeying Supreme Court. That's why.
And this is like almost the same system across all states, because I know the
There is
Nigerian
no
government.
state that is different. There is no. It tells you about the nature, complexion, character of the elite,
Irrespective
of
of political
there
party.
is no. That's why so the democracy contemplates opposition. So even those, the 2023 election gave us the most diversified National Assembly that you can find since our return to democracy in 1999. But that opposition is more position than the position.
That's hilarious.
Is more position than the position. Is more position itself than the position, because otherwise 148 people in a house of 360 people, if they stage a walkout on any matter, how can you proceed?
The two-third voting on that matter.
No,
is
you
gone.
can't proceed now. But instead, because political parties are special purpose vehicles, when they have challenges in their parties, they leave and use other. So that's how they become opposition. And it is not about principle. It is not about ideology. It is about patronage and cronyism. It is about what we can get from power. So once they use that platform to get there, they return back to their parties. So the absence of opposition is also a dead kernel for what we are practicing right now, because there are no people who are. But you know, the beautiful thing is that this president, Asuwaji Ahmed Bola, president of Nigeria, mirrored what opposition should be.
How?
For nearly 2 decades. That's 20 years. For nearly 2 decades, or 22 decades. He stood as a Gibraltar for the opposition. You didn't see him receive. He was not appointed a minister after being governor for
8 years.
Yes, for 8 years. By 2007 till he became president, you didn't hear that he became a minister. You didn't hear he was chairman of any board. If he was doing contracts, that would be what a businessman should do. So, but they organized in a way that they were able to take power from a dominant political party. If they had moved into that dominant political party, would you have what you have? That transition that we had in 2015 would not have happened. Even if the verdict as to whether that change is meaningful for majority of Nigerians or not is still something that will be there. But the point is that those who are flocking to his party, don't they have a lesson to learn from him?
Are they flocking into his party, or there's some sort of power handling situation going on behind the scene? Because it's looks like a coincidence.
I don't like conspiracy theories. I don't like to conjecture. See, the point is that you left your party and you are joining another party. It is not my business to go and be asking why you left. If you had the balls, if you understood the long haul of what opposition is, whether it is backhand or front hand or underhand, it will not matter. What will matter is that you will stand your grounds on the path of what you believe in. And listen, Femi, all the conversations that you hear about coalition, what do you see that is at the center of the conversation? Power. Nothing more. At least when these other ones were coming, they were telling us they are progressive. They have something to offer, that they would do this, they will change this, they will rectify power, they will do they had a mantra. What is the current opposition saying?
The question is, who is even the current opposition?
No, major of the people who pretend to be one. What are they saying?
I'm not too sure there's any clear-cut
message. It is about power. We are going to send him back to his village. We will take power from him. How is that? How does that connect for me? So the point that I'm making is, because we are discussing democracy.
Yes, please.
So all I'm trying to build is the platforms that energize democracy are not available right now. We are missing those things. And I've told you about one, freedom, which is which is is something you can't touch, but is like air. Even though you can't see air, you feel it, you know it. So that was why when the Abacha died in 1998, people flocked to the streets. Nollywood blossomed. Alternative media emerged. Creative energy of the people were unleashed because there was a spiritual tilt of balance. And that's what is being stultified right now. Because when I talk about benevolent dictatorship, they are doing tokenism, doing little things for the people, excite them. But check and see these values that I talk about. Can we challenge our governors? Can we ask them questions? Are we permitted to even ask our local government questions? Have they not brought a law, a cyber crime law, that even now makes it difficult for you to? They are the ones who define when they have been maligned. They sit back and say, I've been maligned. I'm maligned. They take you to court. And then citizens are gagged by laws, So making what you have as democracy even more dangerous than military rule. Now, the court can send you to prison for having an alternative view. Somebody's a thief, and you called him a thief, and he knows that he's a thief. And he goes to court and say you called him a thief. And then he sends you to prison because you called a thief a thief. That's where we are now. And I think that as we reflect over these 26 years of civil rule, those are part of the things that are of concern to me. Those are the things I worry about. I am excited that you could go to Damaturu and see new infrastructure. You could go to Ekiti and see new things that, governors, new things, legacy projects that make no meaning. You can go to Calabar and see a tinapa that is overgrown with weeds because it's not connected to the local economy. You can see all those funny things that are going on, which we celebrate, good as they are. But my thesis is that anybody can do that. Well, what anybody cannot do is freedom. And that freedom is the people themselves that will take it and exercise it and then build the kind of country that they want.
I want to draw your attention to something around by-elections. And it's interesting to see that even the smallest by-election, which by the way, I'm not sure how to rate to say which exact one is small, whether it's a senator trying to come back or somebody died and you're trying to replace somebody, it's expensive. It costs billions. Do we get rid of by-elections and just wait out, or what can we do that doesn't turn out to be every time somebody is missing or something happens, we are back to the election table?
Is our most is one of the things, the strongest drain pipe.
Drain pipe.
Yes, is the strongest drain pipe that we have in our electoral architecture, by elections. Why? So if a senator passes on or gets an appointment, like we have seen, Senator Lalong went to be a minister, even though he came back and contested. He contested to now go to Senate. Now, if a senator gets an appointment, in most situations, the member in the House of Rep wants to go to Senate. When he goes to Senate, he creates a vacancy. 2 vacancies now occur.
Yes, one is in transit, one is has moved on.
So when he wins, he creates vacancy in the House of Rep. Most likely, the guy in the State House of Assembly wants to come to Senate. He creates vacancy. And so, with all your off-cycle elections, you keep conducting, you have an INEC that is year in, year out in the business of conducting elections. Now, that's not the only challenge. 3 senatorial elections is equal to 1 governorship election. Anambra is...
That's in terms of cost.
Yes. Anambra is going to be costing close to 8 billion or more. I can't remember now. So just imagine the costs of the by-elections. And in the between 2000 and 2023, you have had close to 100 by-elections lining up. Some have not even been done. There are vacancies in Oyo. There are many places where they are supposed to conduct in Osun, sorry. They are supposed to conduct Oyo. Yes, they are supposed to conduct by-elections, which has not held. The Anambra to replace the late Ifeanyi Ubah has not happened. There is a woman also. All of those by-elections is a drain. So what is being suggested and what Honorable Adebayo is suggesting, I think he has a law. Is he the one that has that law? Or even INEC? He's saying, can the parties, get the second runner-up to step up in the primaries? But Nigeria is a funny country. The second runner-up can now organize assassination so that, it's a weird place. So
yes,
when you are trying to solve one problem, so it's something we need to think through. But let us recognize that by-elections are very strong drain pipes in the current electoral architecture that we have.
And the issue of compulsory voting, 100,000 naira or fine. I know the Speaker Abbas brought for the bill, but to an extent, I think it's dead. If it doesn't,
withdrawn it.
Yes, withdrawn it doesn't mean it may not be remade in another form or in another comeliness, if I would say. And it kind of worries one about even the existing voter register. Some say it's bloated, some say it's not real people, some say there are all kinds of people there, some say voter turnout compared to what's on the register, it's different. And there are all kinds of things about voters that one could, speculate about. But I'm just thinking, do you think the idea of compulsory voting or just getting people to come out to vote was ever thought through properly in the first place? Because it may be gone now, but come back in another way.
It's not going to come back. It's not going to come back because we are weak to the fact that part of what some of us use our youth to fight is to make sure that there's no coercion.
Coercion.
You can't coerce. You would persuade. The reason to fight that bill was simply that was an instrument of coercion. It took away the right of the people to choose their choice, to say, I don't want to vote. It's an intrinsic
choice not to vote.
Yes. If I don't feel good about what is happening, my protest can be with my vote, even when it is very important. So what do? You persuade me. You let me know that this PVC that I carry or my vote, that it is tied to electricity, it is tied to things that, government can provide. And that if I make a right choice, it is possible that that person can, yeah. So that persuasion is what it's about. So I think the frustration that Right Honorable Tajuddin Abbas was going through was reacting to what people term as voter apathy, which is not correct. It is low voter turnout. Now, apathy is to say that people are not interested in the electoral process. But that is not true, because voter registration is part of the electoral process. And if you have 93 million of your people registering, struggling, and even paying money to collect their PVC, you remember you were part of that work, okay? Paying money to even get the PVC. Then you cannot claim apathy. you can then say they are not turning out
To vote.
to vote. And then you now interrogate what may be the possible reason why they are not turning out to vote. So people have voters card because it is also a means, it's the cheapest means of identification. If you want a NIN, you have to pay money. If you want a driver's license, you've got to pay money. If you want an international passport, you pay money, but the PVC is given to you free of charge. So people are motivated by that to pick their PVC, to pick their voters. And now we are even arguing that it should be eliminated, that people can have printouts where they can, and then people who want to use PVCs can still be using. So the challenge is that democracy is suffering on a death throw right now across the country. People are rethinking whether this democracy is working for them or not. And that is because of what I talked about. People are beginning to question whether they have freedom. Do they really have freedom? Are they, because you now make a law that is that wants to restrict that freedom. It's part of what is being challenged. So basically, that law is dead. It's dead. It's dead because it challenges the intrinsic values of democracy, which is freedom. And the people can surrender anything. They may not care about, they can drive on bad roads and murmur. They can go to hospital and you charge them whatever you like, they pay. But when you want to take their freedom, the best way I like to describe this is just tell anybody to lock us in here and take the key away, bring anything that we need and keep here, whatever they think we need, food, drink, whatever it's required to keep us comfortable. But just ask somebody to lock us inside this place and take the key and go. From the moment that person leaves, the only important thing is how to go out. It will no longer be about what is inside here. It will be about
how to go out,
how to leave this place. And so, in explaining freedom and people understanding it, is to say that, yes, see, people can go through anything that you are doing. But once there is a challenge on their freedom, their resistance is heightened.
And it makes me wonder about if peradventure the speaker or any of the other lawmakers decided to pay attention to the Electoral Offenses Bill, or I don't know. Commission bill. If anybody, because it looks like year in, year out, or no matter the election that happens, no matter what happens, oh yeah, this one has won, let's move on. That's the situation.
17 years. That's what that bill has been in limbo.
17 years.
Yes. In fact, the Justice Way's Electoral Commission gave them a draft bill. And the Way's was in 2007 or thereabout. Yeah. So, it's been in limbo. But again, the tragedy of that kind of law is that you're expecting culprits to make a law that will send them to jail. I don't understand. The politicians are the ones who commit. The truth is that 80% of offenses committed during election are committed by politicians. Yeah. So, what is the crime of the voter? The security agent, INEC. Who manipulates them? Who induces them? Who sends violence? Who intimidates people? Who causes voter suppression? Who causes treating? The giving of food and drinks in polling units? Who does vote buying? And who induces all of that? The politicians. So the truth is that Nigerians are demanding for them to make a law that can clean a process in which they are the biggest offenders. There are bills that have suffered massively in the National Assembly. Whistleblowers bill.
Yes.
Nobody will pass it. They will not pass Electoral Offenses Bill. I challenge them to do so, if what I'm saying is not correct. Those sunshine laws can never see the light of the day. It will not. Because self-preservation is what they is. I told you, they are not there to clean anything. When you see them trying to make law, just look at that law very well. Electoral Act 2022 passed because many of them were absent-minded.
Absent-minded?
Yeah, they didn't know the bill that was passed. Go to me. And you were part of that work, so I know you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
They didn't know the bill that eventually was passed. When they woke up to it,
problem.
How can you pass a law that removes us as delegates? And we passed it.
One interesting area, and I think this is where we'll round off so that, because I know for those who know Ezenwa and myself, we can talk all day long about various subjects, and this will just be a tiny bit of many things we talk about. I'm curious about the INEC chairman. His tenure is due for retirement. There are a lot of things that can happen, an extension by the president. All kinds of things can happen. And June this year makes the midterm for the president, and there are questions that were raised in the last election about, should the INEC chairman or such a role come from the president picking such a person? And then there are also those who are permutating to say, are you going to pick from the directors or people who are ranking within the institution, or you're going to pick somebody from the academia or somebody from anywhere else? And then the question around where is the person from in terms of in Nigeria also comes into play. What's your perspective to this?
Femi, we're always about good man and bad man. It's always about good man, bad man. But that's not the issue. Because I'll answer your question in different ways. Eze believes that there's nothing wrong with the current process. Because the president does not appoint. The president nominates. He only appoints after his nomination has gone through.
Should he even be nominated?
Yes, he can nominate.
Why?
Because it's within his prerogative. Nomination is not a problem. See, I want to nominate Femi to go to this job. And then another structure is set up. All right? To interrogate Femi. To look at his credentials. To look at his eligibility. To look at his suitability. Not only one level, 2 levels. The National Assembly and the Council of States. The National Assembly has different committees, intelligence, everything, coming together, to look at this candidate and say, we find him suitable. And if by simple definition, those people represent the people, right? So the failure of oversight is what we are dealing with. Anywhere you take it to these new ideas of creating, get a civil society, get media, get political parties to form a committee to hunt for people, advertise it. You are still going to go to National Assembly in a democracy. You cannot, after you have finished doing all your search, right, you still take it to the National Assembly. The National Assembly still takes what they have, what you produced. They are going to take it to the same president. He's the one to issue. And let me tell you, Femi, the president cannot sack an INEC chairman. He cannot. If he wants to sack, he would also require 2/3 of the Senate. So even if he doesn't want that person anymore, he can't just say, I've sacked you. He can't sack a resident electoral commissioner once appointed. So those who are canvassing these things are not looking at Nigeria. That's the point. They think the overwhelming influence of people who will power is enormous. Even if the president does not nominate, that his president is enough for people who don't have character, who are appointed to want to do good to him. I don't know if you understand.
Yes, I do.
So just that he's president. Who is not? Do you know there are people who do things for the president that he didn't ask them to do? After doing it, they go and meet him and say, this is what we did, sir. This is what we did, sir. There are people who pray for the president and send tapes to people who are close to him to show him that we are praying for you.
We know how these things work.
You know, okay, if you do know. So I am for what I don't think, in my view, that there's anything wrong with the current. What is important is the weakness of those oversights. Do you know what the Council of State is? Do you know the Constitution?
The recognition they have.
The people who consist the
elder statesmen, past presidents.
And then the president brings a nomination and you keep quiet. You think that person is not good enough. You keep quiet. And it is easy that should be the one that is, no. I think the challenge with us is that we are not holding institutions accountable. If the National Assembly does their job the way they should, I don't know if you understand, without sentiment. And the issue of where you come from, Jega, right? Jega is from the Northwest.
I presume so. I can't remember.
Yes, I think either Northwest or Northeast, whichever one. Goodluck Jonathan became president under an election conducted by Jega. Right?
Yes.
Okay. In November 2015, Professor Mahmoud came on board, conducted election that brought in
Muhammadu Buhari
for second term.
Mm-hmm.
So you accuse him that he pandered to someone from his side. That was why Buhari won. But it was who conducted the one that brought in?
Still, Professor Yakubu still conducted the same.
Now, in the second coming, Atiku was on the ballot. Atiku is from Northeast. And Professor Mahmoud is from Northeast. He's from Adamawa. Professor Mahmoud is from Bauchi. And Asiwaju Bola Ahmed is from Lagos. A Yoruba man won the election. So these things is neither here nor there. So if at some point people were accusing Mahmoud that he was going to give it to his townsman. But let me tell you the biggest legacy of Mahmoud and Jega that a lot of people are not talking about. They restored power to the voter. They took power away from INEC and gave it back to the voter.
But even the voters, they have compelling questions, especially when it comes to beavers. Beavers seems to be the biggest thing.
I said they handed them over power.
How?
So, Femi, why is somebody buying vote for 20,000 naira?
Because they don't have the resources to...
No, why is somebody going to you, voter, to pay you 20,000?
So that you vote for him or vote for his
If your vote does not count, why will he give you 20,000? Do you see the Nigerian politicians as Mother Teresa? No, I'm asking you.
No, of course not.
So Nigerian politician will carry 20,000
they're not that kind.
And give you
out of goodness of their heart.
Out of his goodness of his heart, because he thinks so. Vote buying was a response to the reform that Jega and Mahmoud brought to INEC. It's a response to that. So what you do with that power is your business. If you sell it, is your problem. They have given you the power. What you are doing with it is another level of struggle that we should be getting into. That's the first thing. The second thing that leverages on the question you asked about beavers. The so-called voter turnout, low voter turnout, is also a legacy of the Mahmood Commission. What is the work of beavers, Femi?
Biometric voters,
verification and registration, whatever. Okay? Authentication system.
Yes.
Kano has 7 million votes in the voter register. In 2023, Kano was not able to do 3 million. They did 2-point-something million. Lagos has 6 million votes. Lagos was not able to do 2 million. Rivers has 3 million plus. It was not able to do 1.7. Akwa Ibom, the same.
And those are states with the highest number of voters according to the register.
APC has governor in Kaduna, Nasiru El-Rufai.
Then at that time.
Kano had Ganduje. Katsina had an APC governor.
Masari, I presume.
Yes. Northwest, most of the, except for Jigawa. In fact, Jigawa had Sule Lamido, I think.
No. Sule Lamido was not in at the time. I think there was another governor there.
Okay, no, this my friend, the current Minister of Defense.
Okay.
But most of the Northwest states, President Ahmed Bola Tinubu lost election in those states.
Including Lagos.
No, I'm just telling you. The Northwest used to boast that you cannot be president without them, without their votes. The president lost in most of the states in the Northwest. And in the Northeast, he only won Borno. He won only by spread and majority votes cast. So, in an election in which beavers, bimodal voters authentication system did not work, if it did not work, and you worked in the election, all the reports about the beaver says that it performed in 96% of the places where it was deployed. And in the places where it did not function, that
they have to replace.
Technical RATEX were deployed to replace or to reconfigure those things. So so when you understand that power has returned, we are not people who like to give people who have worked hard credit. But the reforms that have happened in our electoral process is the reason why you don't have the number of former governors that you used to have in the National Assembly, by virtue of the fact that they stroll in.
By retirement.
Yes, the Enugu governor, as at that time, contested the election and lost.
True.
He lost. If he lost, which election did he lose? The 2023 election. Many other people lost their deposits as governors. They couldn't win. They couldn't come back to Senate. So, the reforms that have taken place, that have restored power to the Nigerian voter, is being messed up by the transactional relationship that the politicians have introduced. Unfortunately, that's not a conversation. So you want to ask me about IRF, because that's the next thing. You talk about glitch. No, because it is fashionable to do so once you discuss election. So if what you are saying is true, what about that glitch that happened?
Funny enough, I think my perspective is not even so much about the glitch. It's about how it's supposed to work out and how it will work out in subsequent elections.
No, because, Femi, you first need to understand. You first need to understand before you can talk about how it can then work. First, understand glitch. Glitch happens only after elections have been concluded. For a glitch to happen, elections had to be concluded. And in 2023, elections have been concluded before the glitch. And what was this glitch? Femi, go to a polling unit. When you cast your votes, at the end of polling, you count, you sort, and then you announce results. You make a return. Is that not so?
Yes.
In our own case in Nigeria, because there are your podcast is international. For our case in Nigeria, when you finish sorting and counting, you enter it manually into a form called Form EC8A. Manually. You enter the results into Form EC8A. When you finish filling it, you give a copy to the party agent. You give a copy to security agent, in the particular case, the police. Then INEC has a copy. When you have done that, you snap still photo of that result that is with the party agent, that is with security, and you upload it into a viewing portal. Not a collation portal. The American system, you see results.
As it's coming.
Yes, this one is still photo of that result that is in the pocket of the party agent and in the hand of the security agent. And then there's another form, E60E, that is called the People's Result Sheet, that is bold, that the INEC official pastes in the polling unit. So, Femi, if in the process of wanting to paste, to upload this result, there is a problem, did it affect what we did in the polling unit?
No. It only affected my perception of the viewing.
You that is not, you are a meddlesome interloper.
Somewhere along the lines of viewing it.
You know, you are just, your work is, you want to go and view. But there is a representative of the man or woman who is contesting the election who has collected a result sheet and put in his pocket. And this man who collects that result sheet many times is paid. He's a paid agent. He's not a member of that party. As soon as he collects that result, he goes home. Then you that should have a representative in the place where we have concluded the election, you go to the public and start shouting. They did not paste the result. They did not put the result in the viewing portal. Any intelligent person should ask you, where are you not giving copy of your result? If you were not giving copy, did you send an agent? If you send an agent, was your agent intimidated and driven out of the place? If you understand the question. So what we have done unwittingly is to always allow lazy politicians, very indolent politicians, to set an agenda for us and give us talking points. The regurgitation of glitch is an agenda set by the indolent politicians who could not invite Femi to their own viewing center because they have these results. And some of them refused to bring party agents for accreditation. They were telling the world that they have citizen agents.
And they rely on citizens.
And you people were clapping for them. Who was the citizen agent? Where is the citizen? What is citizen? Will citizen agent have access to results? Ask the politician, say, how many in the general election, what was the percentage of party agents that you deployed? Accredited party agents that you deployed. If you deployed those party agents, did they bring back results to you, even if it's by text message, so that you can have your own parallel vote tabulation. Now, see, we give comfort to people who we shouldn't be listening to, and vilify institutions that set up a process for themselves. Now, election is over, Femi, right? Mm-hmm. If you want to see the result of your village on the IREV now, take the link and go there. People don't go to IREV just because they want to. There is a link. How many people know there is a link, that you have to get a link to go to that IREV? Go there now. It's there. The results are there. Why? Because it was set up primarily because INEC wanted to improve the integrity of their own process, number one. And number two, to aid researchers on Nigerian election who are interested in Nigerian election to be able to have access.
Provide data, insights.
So if you need that data now, all you need to do is to get the link and go to that data and have it. But Femi, I dare you to ask the PDP, ask APC, ask Labour Party to show you data where they store data of the result mined from their own party agents in 2023.
We have to leave it at that this very lovely day. Thank you so much. We're speaking to Ezenwa Nwagu, the Executive Director of Parent Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, PAACA. Thank you so much for coming on Volume with FemiDlive. I love to shake my guests.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much all for watching. Yes, watch these videos. We'd like you to like them, comment, provide your comment on any of the aspects we touched on. And yes, definitely subscribe. We love to have that from you as well. Enjoy your day.